This time, we're going to tackle Paul Auster's Invisible.
Ooh, invisible.
We've got this academic article here, kind of as our guide through this super twisty novel.
Okay.
Get ready for some unreliable narrators, shifting identities, and, yeah, some really tough moral dilemmas.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it is.
Oh.
The novel follows Adam Walker. He's a literature student whose life takes a hard left turn.
Okay.
After he runs into this really manipulative and mysterious guy, Rudolf Born.
Oh, I'm intrigued already.
I know, right?
What I find so fascinating about Invisible is how Auster uses the structure of the novel itself to kind of mirror its themes. Each of the 4 sections has a totally different narrative perspective and a different style, and it really keeps you guessing, like, what's real and what's not.
Yeah, you think you're getting comfortable with it, and then, bam,
Yeah.
he switches it up again.
Totally. Like, we start with Adam's first-person account, right? We're right there in his head. But
Yeah.
then, hold on, it shifts to second-person narration. Yeah. It's this bold move that makes the reader, like, an active participant in the story. You're not just watching Adam anymore. You're being addressed directly. Like, you're him.
Whoa, that is trippy.
Right. You experience his memories, his choices firsthand.
I can see how that would blur the lines.
Absolutely. It makes you question your own role in, like, interpreting the narrative.
Makes you wonder if we're all unreliable narrators in a way.
I know, right? And just when you think you're starting to figure it out, boom,
right.
third-person narration in section 3.
Another curveball.
Totally. This shift to a more distant perspective, it just adds to the whole unreliability thing.
Right.
You know, the academic article we've got actually compares this to Kurosawa's film Rashomon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, both the film and the novel, they show the same events, but from totally different points of view.
I see.
And it leaves the audience, or in this case, the reader, grappling with the idea that, hey, maybe there isn't just one single objective truth.
Wow. Makes you wonder if Auster's saying that truth is subjective, just based on, like, individual perception.
Right. It challenges how we think about making meaning. From stories, from life even, you know?
Totally. Okay, so we've got these shifting perspectives, but then there's Adam Walker himself.
Right.
He goes through this massive transformation in the novel.
He does. He starts as this idealistic student and ends up a man haunted by his past. What do you think? Is this change just because of things that happened to him, or is there something inside Adam that makes him, like, vulnerable to this kind of change?
That's a great question. I feel like meeting Rudolf Born is like this huge turning point.
Oh, yeah.
Born is such a powerful character, so unsettling, but so compelling.
He's like the catalyst for all the chaos and
Right.
change in Adam's life.
You're right, he's got this dangerous charisma about him, like he represents that dark side of power, and we're kind of drawn to it.
It's true. The novel seems to be saying that, you know, who we bump into, especially people like Born, can really shape who we become.
That's a powerful thought.
It really makes you think about how our identity, it's not fixed. It's constantly being, like, molded by our experiences and the people we meet.
Yeah. And then there's that moment when Adam sees this horrible crime and Born's behind it.
Oh, right.
It's like that knowledge just changes Adam forever. He's got to choose, does he speak up or stay silent?
Oh, man, that's heavy.
Right.
This is where Auster really gets into that whole moral gray area, you know?
Yeah.
There's no easy answer. The novel doesn't give you a simple right or wrong.
Right.
It forces you to think about those tough choices.
Yeah.
Where there are consequences that stick with you and where the line between victim and being part of it gets kind of blurry. What do you think? What would you have done if you were Adam?
Oh, man, that is a tough one. It's easy to judge from the outside.
Yeah.
But when you're right there in the middle of it, fear takes over.
True.
Makes you wonder about your own moral compass.
Definitely. It adds this whole other layer to how we see Adam's character and the choices he makes after that.
Yeah. And then you've got the relationships.
Oh, right. The tangled webs we weave.
Like Adam's affair with Margot, Born's companion, it pulls him deeper into the lies and secrets.
Right.
And then, of course, there's his relationship with his sister, Gwen.
Yeah.
These relationships are so intense, so messed up, but they're not just about romance.
They're not.
What do you think Auster is trying to say with these relationships?
You're right. It goes beyond just romance.
Yeah.
He's delving into power, manipulation, the destructive side of desire.
Right.
It's like he's suggesting that even love can be used to control, to exploit.
Especially when secrets and hidden agendas are involved.
Exactly. The lines between love, obsession, betrayal,
Right.
they get all blurred.
It reflects that overall sense of ambiguity in the whole novel.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like these relationships are mini versions of those big themes. The shifting identities, the moral compromises, trying to figure out what's real and what's fake.
Right.
It all circles back to that unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
We only get these bits and pieces, never the whole picture.
That's true. We're always left wondering what really happened. Just like Adam himself, right?
Yeah.
He's struggling with his own memories, trying to make sense of all the different versions of himself that pop up throughout the story.
And that's where the academic article gets really interesting.
Oh, how so?
It suggests that maybe this unreliable narration is connected to how memory actually works.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Are you saying our memories aren't as reliable as we think?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, could that explain why Adam's story about Born, for example, keeps changing depending on who's telling it?
It could be. That's exactly what the article digs into. Our memories, they're not like video recordings of the past. They change, they get rewritten by our current experiences, our emotions, even what we want to believe.
Whoa.
Right. It adds a whole new layer of complexity to Invisible.
Yeah, it does.
It makes you think, if our memories are that easily influenced, can we ever really be sure of anything?
It's like a mind bender.
Yeah.
If we're all rewriting our own histories, how can we know what actually happened?
Right. And that takes us right to the heart of this whole idea of truth in Invisible.
So is objective truth even possible?
That's the question, isn't it?
It's like the foundation of everything we think we know is shaky.
Exactly.
What's Auster trying to say here about, what it means to be human? Are we all just lost in a sea of subjectivity?
I think that's the central question that Invisible throws at us.
Yeah.
It doesn't hand us easy answers, but it makes us question our assumptions, look at things from different angles, and admit that maybe we don't see everything clearly.
It's like he's pushing us to think more critically, be more aware of our own biases.
Right. To approach everything, stories, news, even our own lives, with a healthy dose of skepticism.
And maybe even more importantly, to be more understanding of other people. To realize that everyone's dealing with their own version of truth, shaped by what they've been through and how they see the world.
You got it. It's a powerful message, especially now when we're bombarded with information from all sides. We got to be able to sort through it all, see when someone's trying to manipulate us, and be open to those who see things differently.
Absolutely. Invisible isn't just a story, it's like a call to action.
It is.
To be more thoughtful, to be more careful about what we believe, and to be more connected to the world around us.
So well said.
Okay, so bring it back to Adam's journey. Is there any hope for him? Can someone who's been so involved in darkness ever find their way back to the light?
Now that's the question that sticks with you. It runs through the whole novel.
It does.
Adam's clearly wrestling with his past, trying to find some way to make things right.
Yeah.
But can he really change? Can he overcome all that guilt and find redemption? Auster doesn't tell us.
So it's left up to us.
It is. It's for each reader to decide.
It comes back to the idea that there are many truths, many ways to interpret things. What we take away from a story is ultimately personal.
Absolutely. And that's what makes literature so powerful. It sparks conversations, challenges our thinking, makes us connect with those big questions about ourselves and the world in a way that makes us, well, more human.
This whole exploration of memory, truth, and redemption,
Yeah.
it feels so relevant to our own lives.
It does, doesn't it?
Do you think Auster's suggesting we all have the power to rewrite our own stories, reshape who we are, and come to terms with our past?
I think that's one of the most powerful messages in the novel. It's not just Adam's journey, it's the journey of being human. It's about choices, the stories we tell ourselves, and always trying to figure out who we are in a world where truth is hard to grasp.
It's a challenge to look at our own biases, admit that we might be distorting our own stories,
Right.
and to accept that maybe we're not always right.
It's not easy.
But in that challenge, there's so much potential to grow and learn about ourselves.
You hit the nail on the head. This self-reflection, looking at our own stories with a critical eye, can be tough, even painful sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's in those moments when we're willing to face our own shadows that we can really change and become more true to ourselves.
It's like we're all on this quest to find those hidden chapters in our lives, to rewrite the stories that don't serve us anymore, and to accept all the messy, complicated parts that make us who we are.
That's beautifully put. And that journey, like the one we're taking through Invisible, It's rarely a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, moments of clarity and moments of doubt.
Yeah.
But it's in that exploration, that willingness to dive into the unknown, that we discover the depth of our own humanity.
We've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Invisible so far.
We have.
We've talked about those unreliable narrators, how memory can be tricky, the tough moral choices, and how hard it is to pin down truth.
Yeah.
As we get closer to the end, what are your final thoughts for our listener? What do you hope they walk away with?
If I had to sum it up, I'd say embrace the ambiguity. Don't shy away from the complexity, the contradictions that life throws at you.
Okay.
Lean into them. Question what you think you know. Challenge how you see things. Be open to the idea that there might be multiple truths, multiple ways of looking at the world.
That's powerful. It reminds me that life isn't always black and white.
It isn't.
There are all those shades of gray, and in those shades of gray, we find the most interesting insights and the biggest chances to grow.
So true.
Invisible is one of those novels that stays with you.
It really does.
It makes you think about those big questions, about truth, identity, what it means to be human.
It's testament to the power of stories. And those questions, they never get old. They keep us thinking, challenging us.
So, to wrap up our deep dive, let's encourage our listener to keep thinking about these things.
Absolutely. And remember, this isn't the end.
Right.
It's up to each of us to take what we've learned and apply it to our own lives, to keep asking questions, keep searching, and keep growing.
Beautifully said. Invisible is a novel that really makes you think. It shows us the power of storytelling and those enduring questions about truth, identity, and what it means to be human. Questions that keep us fascinated and challenged.
And as you navigate your own life, remember what we've uncovered in this deep dive.
Okay.
Be a critical observer of your own story, seek out different perspectives, and most importantly, stay curious.
I love that.
There's always more to discover both within the pages of a book and within yourself.
Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the journey.
You're here.
It's wild to think that our memories, the things we think are so solid and real, can actually be so changeable and subjective.
Yeah.
If Adam's remembering things wrong, because of this whole reconstruction idea, how much of what we're reading is even true?
That's a great point. The article really digs into that. It says, Adam's unreliable narration isn't just some literary trick, it's showing how memory itself works. Think about how Adam describes his relationship with Born. It changes every time someone else tells the story.
Right.
Sometimes he's the victim, all manipulated by Born's charm, forced into doing bad things.
Yeah.
But other times, he seems to kind of enjoy the power he gets from being close to Born.
Okay.
He even takes part in some shady stuff.
It's like he keeps changing the story to fit the image he wants to have.
Exactly.
Both for himself and how other people see him.
Right. It makes you wonder if he even knows he's doing it.
Yeah.
Or if he's deliberately twisting the truth to protect himself so he doesn't have to deal with the guilt.
That brings up this whole question of guilt and redemption. Is Adam really trying to make things right? Or is he just making up a version of events that lets him sleep at night?
That's a good question. This whole self-justification thing, it's not just with Adam.
Oh, really?
Other characters do it too. It's like a recurring theme.
Like everyone wants to control how their story is told.
Yeah. To look good, even if it means bending the truth or leaving stuff out.
Makes you think, how much of what we call reality is just a big illusion?
It ties into this bigger theme that runs through the whole novel.
Yep.
The fact that truth is slippery, hard to pin down.
Yeah. If we can't trust our own memories, if we're constantly changing our personal histories, how can we ever really know what happened?
Exactly. Is there even such a thing as objective truth?
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is.
It's like we're trying to stand on shifting sand.
Yeah, I get that. It makes you wonder what Auster's trying to tell us about being human.
Yeah.
Are we all just stuck in our own subjective worlds? Or is there some way out of that mess? I think that's the core question of Invisible. It doesn't give us any easy answers, but it makes us examine what we believe, look at things from different perspectives, and admit that we might be wrong.
It's like he's challenging us to be more critical.
Yeah, exactly.
To realize our own biases and approach everything, not just stories, but real life too, with a bit of skepticism.
Right, and maybe even more importantly, to have empathy for others. To understand that everyone is working with their own truth, shaped by their experiences and their worldview.
It's a really powerful message, especially in today's world.
It is.
We need to be able to tell fact from fiction, spot manipulation, and have compassion for people who see things differently than we do.
Invisible isn't just a book, it's like a wake-up call.
Yeah,
To be more thoughtful, more discerning, more engaged with the world around us.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, going back to Adam, is there any chance for him to redeem himself?
That's the question that hangs over the whole story.
He does.
Adam's obviously wrestling with his past, trying to make amends for what he's done.
Right.
But whether he's truly capable of change, whether he can overcome his guilt and find redemption, well, Auster leaves that up to us.
He doesn't give us a clear answer.
Nope.
So each reader gets to decide.
Exactly. It goes back to that idea that there are many truths, many ways to interpret things. What we take from a story is personal.
It's true. And that's what makes literature so powerful. It gets people talking, challenging our ideas, and makes us connect with those big questions about ourselves and the world in a way that makes us, well, more human. This exploration of memory, truth, and redemption, it feels so relevant to our own lives, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Do you think Auster is suggesting that we all have the ability to rewrite our own stories? To change who we are and make peace with our past?
I believe that's one of the core messages in the novel. It's not just about Adam, it's about the human experience as a whole.
Okay.
It's about the choices we make, the stories we tell ourselves, and how we define ourselves in a world where truth can be so slippery.
It's tough to look at our own biases, to admit that we might be twisting our own stories.
It is.
And even tougher to admit that we might be wrong. But there's a lot of potential for growth in that.
You're absolutely right. Looking at our own stories with a critical eye can be uncomfortable, even painful sometimes. But it's in those moments when we're willing to face our own shadows that real change can happen.
It's like we're all searching for those hidden parts of ourselves, trying to rewrite the stories that hold us back, and learning to accept all those messy, complicated parts that make us who we are.
Beautifully put. And that journey, just like in Invisible, it's rarely a straight line. There are twists and turns, moments of clarity and moments of doubt. But it's that willingness to explore, to embrace the unknown, that leads us to discover who we truly are.
We've covered so much in this deep dive into Invisible. Unreliable narrators, memory's tricks, tough moral choices, and how elusive truth can be.
We have. As we wrap things up, what final thoughts would you leave our listeners with? What do you hope stays with them?
If I could boil it down, I'd say embrace the ambiguity. Don't shy away from complexity and contradictions. Lean into them. Question everything you think you know. Challenge your perceptions. And be open to the possibility that there are multiple truths, multiple ways of seeing the world.
I love that. It's a great reminder that life isn't black and white. There are so many shades of gray, and that's where we often find the most insightful, meaningful stuff. Exactly. And never underestimate the power of stories. They make us think, challenge our perspectives, and inspire us to become more thoughtful, compassionate, and connected to the world around us.
So as we finish this deep dive, let's encourage our listener to keep pondering these questions.
Yes. Remember, the exploration doesn't stop here. It's up to each of us to take these ideas and apply them to our lives, to keep questioning, searching, and growing.
It's interesting how Invisible makes us question not just the truth in the story, but also truth in our own lives. It's like Auster's holding up this mirror, making us see how we might be shaping our own stories to fit a certain image or belief we have.
That is such a good point. It's human nature, right? We all want to show ourselves in the best light.
Yeah.
Sometimes we even edit our memories without realizing it to match the version of ourselves we want to project.
Totally. We all want to look good and avoid those flaws.
Exactly. So how do we break free from that? How do we become more honest storytellers of our own lives?
Yeah, how do we do that?
It starts with self-awareness. Recognizing that we all have biases, blind spots,
Okay.
and that our memories, well, they're not perfect. Once we get that, we can start to be more critical of our own narratives and open to other points of view.
So taking a step back, trying to see our lives from a more objective angle.
Exactly. Admitting that our view of things might not always be the whole truth.
That's tough.
It is. It takes a willingness to be honest with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable.
Right.
Ask those tough questions, challenge your own beliefs, and be open to being wrong. It's a journey of growth, always discovering more about yourself.
It makes me think about Adam and what happens to him in the end. Does he ever really face his past, come to terms with the choices he made?
That's the question that sticks with you even after you close the book. Auster leaves it open, doesn't give you a neat little answer or a happy ending. It's up to the reader to decide if Adam finds redemption or if he stays stuck in the mess he created.
It brings us back to that idea that there are many truths, many ways to see things.
Yeah. What we get out of a story is really personal, based on our own experiences.
And that's what's so cool about literature.
Absolutely.
It sparks conversations, challenges us to think differently, and helps us connect with those big questions about life in a way that really makes us think about what it means to be human.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So, wrapping up our deep dive into Invisible, what's your final thought for our listeners?
Embrace the ambiguity. Don't be afraid of the complexity, the contradictions in life. Use them to grow, to reflect, and to expand your understanding of what it means to be human.
Beautifully said. Invisible really gets under your skin. It reminds us of the power of stories and those big questions about truth, identity, what it means to be human, questions that never stop being relevant.
And as you go about your own life, remember what we've talked about today. Be a critical observer of your own story, look for different perspectives, and most importantly, stay curious.
Yes.
There's always something new to discover, whether it's in a book or within yourself.
Until next time.